Have you ever wondered why some people act strangely, almost as if they're running from an invisible ghost? A man stands at his door, turning his key in the lock, checking it for the 4th time that night. The wind howls through the gap, but he's not afraid of burglars. He's afraid of something much deeper. A scar from narcissistic abuse that no one else can see. Here's the truth. Narcissistic abuse doesn't just leave wounds on the skin. It carves itself into the soul, turning into strange habits you may have noticed but never understood. Today, we're facing it head-on. No sugarcoating, no avoiding it. We're diving straight into the 7 strange habits left behind by narcissistic abuse. These people aren't characters in a book. They're around you, the person standing next to you in the grocery line, the one you chat with at weekend gatherings. They wear a smile, but their eyes tell a different story. The story of how narcissistic abuse drained them day by day. These habits aren't quirks to laugh at. They're the battle scars of a silent war. Echoes of years spent under the relentless grip of narcissistic manipulation. Maybe you know someone like this. Maybe you have felt the suffocating weight of narcissistic abuse yourself. Whatever the case, this video will change the way you see everything. Don't look away. Every second is a door opening to the truth. Let's begin right now. Habit 1. Doubt. The silent betrayer of the mind. Imagine Mike, an ordinary man with an ordinary workday. His boss walks past his desk, gives him a pat on the shoulder and says, "You did a great job, really." A simple compliment, right? But Mike doesn't smile. He doesn't lift his head to say thank you. Instead, he keeps his eyes locked on his keyboard, staring at it as if it holds the answer to some great mystery. He mutters under his breath, barely audible. He's probably just saying that to get me to do more work. Doubt. It's not just a word. For Mike, it's a shadow that clings to every second of his life, a venomous snake slithering through his thoughts, poisoning the rare moments of kindness that life occasionally offers. Someone compliments him, he assumes they're lying. Someone is kind to him, he wonders what they're hiding. When his partner texts, "You're the most amazing person I've ever met," Mike doesn't feel warmth. He frowns at the screen and mutters, "Is this a joke or a trap?" Why is Mike like this? Why does a simple kind word feel like a puzzle to be solved, rather than a gift to be accepted? The answer lies deep in his past. A past suffocated by narcissistic abuse. Mike once lived under the control of a narcissist, someone who didn't just dictate his every move, but also planted a twisted belief in his mind. No one is genuine, everything is a facade. Every compliment is a disguised dagger. Every act of kindness is a trap waiting to spring. Narcissistic abuse didn't just steal his happiness, it stole his ability to trust. Now, imagine living in a world where every word is distorted. You're criticized every day, told you're not good enough, that you're wrong, that you're stupid. Not once, not twice, but hundreds, thousands of times, until those words sink into your bones. You start to doubt yourself. Am I really that bad? Then you doubt others. If I can't be trusted, then who can? For Mike, doubt isn't a choice, it's a survival instinct. The armor he wears to protect himself from the narcissistic abuse that once crushed him. But that armor isn't a superpower. It doesn't make him stronger. Instead, it's heavy. It weighs him down. It robs him of the happiness he deserves. A compliment is no longer a joy, it's a question. What do they want from me? A smile is no longer warmth, it's a warning sign, be careful, something's not right. A psychologist once said, doubt is the shield they carry to protect themselves, but it is also the prison that keeps them in the dark. Mike doesn't want to live like this, but he doesn't know how to let go. Narcissistic abuse has turned him into someone always bracing for the next hit, even when no one is hitting him anymore. Let's go deeper. Doubt isn't just a reaction to the outside world, it's an internal battle. Every time Mike doubts others, he also doubts himself. He wonders, do I even deserve this compliment, or are they just pitying me? Narcissistic abuse didn't just teach him to distrust people, it taught him to distrust his own worth. The narcissist planted the idea that he was a living mistake, something to be fixed, and every kind word was just a polite cover-up for that truth. Doubt became a vicious cycle. He doubts others because he doubts himself, and he doubts himself because he doubts others. And here's the scary part. Mike is not an exception. How many people around you carry this same doubt? They're not cold, they're not arrogant, they're survivors of narcissistic abuse, trying not to get hurt again. They're not rejecting you. They just don't know how to believe that you're being sincere. Think about the last time you complimented someone and they dismissed it, or the time they looked at you with suspicion instead of gratitude. Did it frustrate you? Did you think they were overreacting? But if you understood that their doubt wasn't their choice, that it was the result of narcissistic abuse warping their perception of the world, you wouldn't judge them anymore. You would see the heartbreaking truth. They're not doubting you, they're doubting their own ability to be loved. So the next time someone doesn't believe your kind words, don't take it personally. Don't assume they're rejecting you. Maybe their trust was shattered by narcissistic abuse, and doubt is the only way they know to keep their heart beating. They're not your enemy. They are warriors fighting an invisible battle in their own minds. Habit 2. The mask, a fake smile in the crowd. Now, let's talk about Jenny. She stands at a weekend BBQ, smoke rising from the grill, laughter echoing through the yard. She holds a plate of burgers, chatting with everyone, her smile as bright as the midday sun. Anyone looking at her would think she's enjoying the moment, a perfect picture of joy and ease. But if you look closer, something's off. Her fingers grip the plate so tightly that her knuckles turn white. Her eyes don't smile. They're empty, distant, as if her mind is somewhere far away, lost in a place beyond the laughter and the smell of grilled meat. Jenny is wearing a mask. Not a party mask made of paper, but an invisible shield carefully constructed to hide what's really happening inside. She laughs, she talks, but her heart isn't here. It's curled up, trying not to shatter in front of everyone. That smile isn't joy, it's a performance. A well-rehearsed act designed to make sure no one sees just how broken she really is. Why does Jenny have to pretend? The answer lies in the years of narcissistic abuse she endured. She once lived with a narcissist, someone who didn't just control her, but crushed every real emotion she had. If she cried, he called her weak, a drama queen no one could tolerate. If she got angry, he told her she was too sensitive, that she was overreacting, just to get attention. If she felt happy, he would find a way to kill it. A sarcastic remark, a mocking glance, anything to remind her that her emotions were worthless. Narcissistic abuse taught her a brutal lesson. Real emotions are a weakness, and weakness invites pain. So Jenny learned to hide everything. She learned to smile even when she was breaking inside, to nod even when her mind was in chaos, to say, "I'm fine," even when she was dying on the inside. It wasn't a choice. It was the only way she could survive the relentless abuse. The narcissist didn't want to see the real Jenny. He wanted a perfect version of her, a doll that obeyed, that didn't feel, that didn't cause trouble. And Jenny became that version, not because she wanted to, but because she had no other option. But surviving is not the same as truly living. Jenny's mask is a defense mechanism, a wall she built so no one could touch the pain inside her. She doesn't want people to see her as weak, not because she's proud, but because she's terrified. She's afraid that if she lets even a tiny piece of herself show, someone will use it against her, just like the narcissist did. She doesn't want their pity or their concern. She just wants to be left alone, even if that means being completely isolated in a crowd. Let's go deeper. The mask isn't just how Jenny deals with others, it's how she deals with herself. Every time she forces a fake smile, she's telling herself, "Don't feel, don't let it rise to the surface." Narcissistic abuse didn't just make her afraid of people, it made her afraid of her own emotions. She fears that if she takes off the mask, she won't be able to control what comes flooding out, the pain, the anger, the loss she has buried for so long. The mask doesn't just hide her from the world, it hides her from herself. And this doesn't go away just because she escaped the narcissist. The mask has become a habit, a reflex as natural as breathing. When someone asks, "Are you okay?" she smiles and says, "Of course, everything's great." but inside, she's screaming. She wants to say, "No, I'm not okay, I've never been okay," but she doesn't dare, because narcissistic abuse taught her that honesty leads to pain. Think about the people you've met in your life. Have you ever seen someone like Jenny? Someone who always smiles, always talks, but something feels off. They're not faking to deceive you, they're wearing a mask to protect themselves from the wounds left by narcissistic abuse. That smile isn't happiness. It's the last shield they have to keep the world from seeing the truth. But here's something to think about. What's behind that mask? A person who desperately wants to be understood, to be loved, but doesn't believe it's possible. Every time Jenny smiles, she's not just hiding pain, she's hiding hope. Hope that one day she won't have to wear the mask anymore. So the next time you see someone smiling, but their eyes don't shine, don't assume they're pretending. Ask yourself, what are they hiding? What have they been through that forced them to wear this mask? Because behind that smile, there might be a soul silently crying for help, a survivor of narcissistic abuse trying not to break apart in front of you. Habit 3. Cleaning, the search for order in chaos. Meet Carol. It's past midnight, but the kitchen light is still on. She stands there, cloth in hand, scrubbing the cabinet for the third time that night. Tears silently stream down her face, but she doesn't stop. "If everything is clean, I'll be okay," she whispers to herself. Even though her hands are aching and her eyes are burning, the surface is spotless, without a speck of dust. But Carol still finds an imperfect corner, and she keeps scrubbing as if her life depends on it. Cleaning for Carol, it's not just a chore. It's a ritual, an escape, a way to keep her world from collapsing. But why? Why would someone turn cleaning into a life or death battle? The answer lies in the years of narcissistic abuse she endured. Carol once lived with a narcissist, someone who didn't just control her, but turned her life into an unbearable mess. Everything in her life was judged. If she left dishes in the sink, he would yell that she was lazy. If she folded clothes the wrong way, he would call her useless. If the house wasn't perfect, he would tell her she was a failure, not just to him, but to the entire world. Narcissistic abuse didn't just attack Carol's self-worth, it attacked her sense of safety. She lived in a world where nothing was ever good enough, where every small mistake was an accusation, and she had no control over anything, not even herself. So when she escaped the narcissist, Carol turned to cleaning. It wasn't just about keeping the house tidy, it was her way of reclaiming the control that narcissistic abuse had stolen. Every time she wiped away a stain, she felt like she was erasing a criticism. Every time she organized a drawer, she felt like she was rebuilding a part of herself. Cleaning became her tranquilizer, a way to find order in a world that had once been turned into chaos by a narcissist. But let's go deeper. Cleaning isn't just a physical act, it's a psychological battle. For Carol, every stain isn't just dust. It's a memory of the days she was yelled at. Every cluttered item isn't just an object, it's a symbol of the helplessness she once felt. When she cleans, she's not just tidying the house. She's trying to cleanse her mind of the narcissistic abuse that held her captive for so long. But what's the price? She can't stop. A clean shelf isn't enough. She needs the whole house spotless. A spotless house isn't enough. She needs to start over. Cleaning isn't just a solution, it has become an obsession. A cycle she can't break. Imagine this. Carol doesn't clean because she likes it. She cleans because she's afraid. Afraid that if she stops, the chaos will return. Not from the narcissist, but from within herself. Narcissistic abuse made her believe that she is only valuable when everything is perfect. And when things aren't perfect, she is a failure. Cleaning is her way of proving to herself that she is not, that she can have control, that she has worth. But it's also a reminder that she never truly escaped the narcissist. He's not there anymore, but his voice still echoes in her every action. And here's the heartbreaking truth. Carol is not alone. How many people turn cleaning into a ritual to cope with the past? They are not just obsessed with cleanliness, they are survivors of narcissistic abuse, trying to find peace in a world that was once in turmoil. A psychologist once said, Behind a perfectly organized home is a heart trying to piece itself back together. For Carol, every cleaning motion is an attempt to heal, but also proof that the wounds are still there, deeper than she wants to admit. Think about the people you know, the ones who keep their homes spotless, who can't stand a bit of mess. Do you think they just like cleanliness? Or is there something deeper? Maybe they are not just cleaning their homes, they are trying to wipe away the memories left behind by narcissistic abuse. Next time you see someone scrubbing obsessively, don't laugh. Ask yourself, what are they trying to erase? Because for them, cleaning isn't just a habit, it's a desperate search for order in a life once shattered by narcissistic abuse. Habit 4. Locking the door. An invisible barrier against the past. Have you ever wondered why some people can't go to sleep without checking the door 5 or 6 times? For Tom, it's not just a habit, it's a survival ritual. Every night, he stands at the door, turning the key, checking every lock, as if he's playing a game of chess with his own mind. But he's not afraid of burglars or the dark. What he fears is a memory, a deep scar from narcissistic abuse that he never speaks about. Locking the door for Tom, it's not just a simple action before bed. It's a ritual, a shield, a way to keep his mind from being invaded. But why? Why would someone turn checking a lock into a silent battle with themselves? The answer lies in the years of narcissistic abuse he endured. Tom once lived with a narcissist, someone who didn't just control his life, but shattered every sense of security he ever had. Imagine living with someone who constantly invades your space, not just physical space, but your mental space, your emotions, everything that belongs to you. The narcissist used to pound on his door in the middle of the night, shouting cruel words, demanding attention, blaming Tom for things he hadn't done. Some nights he heard footsteps outside his door, and his heart pounded, not because he feared a stranger, but because he feared the person he once trusted. Narcissistic abuse didn't just steal Tom's peace. It made him feel like his own home was no longer a refuge, but a battlefield. So when he escaped the narcissist, Tom started locking the door. Not just once, but multiple times, every night, like an unbreakable ritual. Every time he turned the key, it felt like he was building a wall between himself and the past. Every click of the lock was a firm statement, you can't get in anymore. Locking the door wasn't just about protecting himself from the outside world, it was his way of protecting himself from the narcissistic abuse that had invaded him relentlessly. It was his fortress, his sense of control, the thing he had been denied for so long. But let's dig deeper. Locking the door isn't just a physical act. It's a complex internal battle. For Tom, every lock check is a silent prayer for safety, something he never truly felt. He's not just locking the door, he's locking away the memories of those terrifying nights. But what's the cost? He can't stop. Checking once isn't enough. He has to do it again and again because deep inside he fears that if he skips even one time, the past will find its way back in. Narcissistic abuse planted a fear deep inside him that he will never truly be safe, that at any moment someone could invade his space and take away the fragile peace he's desperately trying to hold on to. Think about this. Tom doesn't check the locks because he wants to, he does it because he has to. His fear isn't just about the narcissist, it's about himself. He's afraid that if he doesn't check thoroughly enough, he will become that helpless person again, the one who couldn't protect himself. Narcissistic abuse made him believe that safety is something he must fight for every second, every minute, and if he lets his guard down, it will slip away. Locking the door isn't just a habit, it's a symbol of survival, but also a reminder that he has never truly escaped that shadow. And here's something to think about. Tom is not alone. How many people check their locks every night? Not because they live in a dangerous neighborhood, but because they once lived with someone far more dangerous. A narcissist who destroyed their sense of safety? A psychologist once said, they're not afraid of the dark, they're afraid of what the dark once brought. For Tom, every lock check is an attempt to keep narcissistic abuse behind a closed door. But it's also proof that he's still running, even though the narcissist is long gone. Think about the people you've met, the ones who always check the door, the ones who can't go to sleep without making sure everything is locked tight. Do you think they're just being cautious? Or is there something deeper? Maybe they're not just locking the door. Maybe they're locking away the memories left behind by narcissistic abuse. Next time you see someone doing this, don't laugh. Ask yourself, what are they trying to keep out? Or what are they trying to keep inside? Because for them, locking the door isn't just a habit. It's an invisible barrier against the past, a battle they have never truly won. Habit 5. Being alone. Freedom behind solitude. If I go alone, no one can judge me, Linda thinks as she steps into the restaurant. She picks a small table, sets down her bag, and orders her favorite dish without looking at anyone for approval. Being alone sounds simple, doesn't it? But for Linda, it's an entirely new world. She no longer has to hear criticism about her choices, no longer has to worry that someone will ruin this moment. After years of narcissistic abuse, solitude is not loneliness, it's the freedom she has reclaimed. Being alone, for Linda, it's not just a random decision, it's a statement, an escape, a way to take back what she once lost. But why? Why would someone seek solitude instead of companionship? The answer lies in years of narcissistic abuse. Linda once lived with a narcissist, someone who didn't just control her, but suffocated every part of who she really was. Imagine living with someone who decides everything for you. What do you want to eat? He chooses. Where do you want to go? He decides. Do you want to laugh? He tells you that you're ridiculous. Linda once had no right to be herself. Every preference, every opinion, every emotion she had was shaped, judged, and often crushed by the narcissist. If she wanted to eat something, he would tell her it was a terrible choice. If she wanted to go somewhere, he would say it was pointless. Narcissistic abuse didn't just take away her ability to choose. It made her feel like she had no right to exist as an individual. She became his shadow, an obedient puppet, no will, no voice. So when she finally escaped the narcissist, Linda turned to solitude. She started dining alone, walking alone, enjoying moments without interference. Every time she sat down at a table without fear of judgment, it felt like she was reclaiming a piece of herself. Every time she ordered food without worrying about mockery, she felt like she could breathe again. Being alone is not just the absence of others, it is the presence of freedom. It is how she takes back the control that narcissistic abuse had stolen for far too long. But let's go deeper. Being alone is not just a physical action, it's a complex emotional state. For Linda, solitude is a victory. For the first time, she can be herself without fear of criticism. But it is also loneliness, an empty space she isn't ready to fill. She craves companionship, but she doesn't trust anyone enough to let them in. Narcissistic abuse taught her that closeness means loss. Loss of freedom, loss of self, loss of everything she just fought so hard to regain. Being alone is her solution, but it is also a reminder that she is still afraid to let go. Think about this. Linda doesn't choose solitude because she hates people. She chooses it because she is afraid. Afraid that if she lets someone in, they will control her again. Afraid that if she opens up, she will be judged, silenced, suffocated. Narcissistic abuse didn't just make her lose faith in others, it made her lose faith in the possibility of being loved without being hurt. Being alone is freedom, yes, but it is also the prison she built for herself, a place where she has full control but no escape from isolation. And here's something to think about. Linda is not the only one. How many people prefer being alone, not because they're antisocial, but because narcissistic abuse once crushed their individuality? A psychologist once said, "Solitude is not a choice, it is their first victory." For Linda, every meal she eats alone is a step toward healing. But it is also proof that the scars of narcissistic control are still there. Even though the narcissist is gone, think about the people you've met. The ones who always eat alone, the ones who avoid crowded gatherings. Do you think they just prefer it that way? Or is there something deeper? Maybe they're not just seeking quiet. Maybe they're seeking freedom behind solitude, a way to survive the narcissistic abuse that once strangled them. So next time you see someone sitting alone, don't pity them. Ask yourself, are they enjoying their freedom? Or are they running from something? Because for them, being alone is not just a habit. It is a journey to rediscover themselves, even if that journey feels lonely. Habit 6. Stuttering. Words imprisoned by memories. Have you ever heard someone stutter and thought, why can't they just finish their sentence? For Brian, it's not that simple. Today, he stands in a meeting trying to get a sentence out. I think. The boy needs, but he can't. His words are stuck, not because he's shy, but because a past filled with narcissistic abuse has locked them away. He's not just speaking to others, he's speaking to his memories, and his memories don't want him to win. Stuttering. For Brian, it's not just a speech problem. It's a barrier, a wound, a scar from what he has endured. But why? Why would someone struggle to speak, even when it's just a simple sentence? The answer lies in years of narcissistic abuse. Brian once lived with a narcissist, someone who didn't just control him, but crushed every attempt he made to express himself. Imagine living with someone who constantly cuts you off. You open your mouth, and they interrupt. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You try to explain, and they mock you. Do you really think anyone cares? That was Brian's life. Not just once, but every day, every hour. Every opinion he voiced was ridiculed. Every emotion he shared was dismissed. The narcissist made him believe that his words had no value, that his thoughts were garbage, not worth listening to. Narcissistic abuse didn't just silence him on the outside. It locked his voice away on the inside, turning every sentence into a battle with himself. So when he finally escaped the narcissist, Brian still carried this scar. He wants to speak, he wants to share, but the words won't come out. Every time he opens his mouth, the memories of being interrupted, mocked, dismissed rise up like a wall. Stuttering isn't a physical issue. It's a symptom of trauma. It's his mind's way of protecting him from past pain. Every stuttered word is an attempt to break free from narcissistic abuse, but also a reminder that he isn't truly free yet. But let's go deeper. Stuttering isn't just a reaction to the past. It's a complex inner struggle. For Brian, every time he stutters, he isn't just fighting to speak. He's fighting his own self-worth. He wonders, do I even deserve to be heard? Or will they just laugh at me again? Narcissistic abuse planted the belief that he has no right to speak up, that he is irrelevant, unimportant, invisible. Every time he tries to speak, he isn't just battling memories, he's battling the fear that he is still the invisible person the narcissist forced him to become. Think about this. Brian doesn't stutter because he's slow. He stutters because he's afraid. Afraid that if he speaks, he'll be dismissed again. Afraid that if he expresses himself, he'll be hurt again. Narcissistic abuse didn't just silence him in the past, it made him doubt the worth of his voice in the present. Stuttering is his body's way of responding to that fear. Short breaths, a dry mouth, as if he's running even when he's standing still. It isn't weakness, it's proof of strength, of someone fighting to step out of the darkness he was once trapped in. And here's something to think about. Brian is not alone. How many people stutter not because they lack confidence, but because narcissistic abuse once choked their voice? A psychologist once said, they're not clumsy with words, they're telling a story their mouth can't keep up with. For Brian, every stutter is a step toward healing, but it's also proof that the wounds of narcissistic abuse are still there, deeper than he wants to admit. Think about the people you've met, the ones who hesitate when they speak, who cut their stories short. You think they're just shy, or is there something deeper? Maybe they're not just struggling to talk, they're struggling to escape the prison narcissistic abuse locked their voice in. So next time you hear someone stutter, don't laugh. Ask yourself, what are they trying to say? And who made them afraid to speak? Because for them, stuttering isn't just a habit. It's words imprisoned by memories, a battle to reclaim the voice they deserve to have. Habit 7. Apologizing. Excessive words rooted in deep fear. Have you ever noticed someone apologizing too much? Not because they made a big mistake, but for small things, like dropping a piece of paper or just being near you when you stumble. Susan is one of those people. She drops a box of cereal in the supermarket and immediately says, "Sorry, I'm so clumsy," even though no one cares. Why does she apologize? Not because she wants to be polite, but because narcissistic abuse made her believe that everything is her fault and apologizing is the only way to avoid punishment. Apologizing, for Susan, it's not just a common phrase. It's a reflex, a shield, a way to soothe the invisible ghosts she carries from her past. But why? Why would someone apologize even when no one blames them? The answer lies in years of narcissistic abuse. Susan once lived with a narcissist, someone who didn't just control her but turned her into a scapegoat for every mistake, no matter how small. Imagine living with someone who blames you for everything. You spill a glass of water. You're so clumsy. How will you survive? You forget something small? You're useless. Even when he made mistakes, like burning dinner, he would still turn to you and yell, "It's your fault for distracting me." Susan lived like this, day after day, accused of everything, from bad weather to things she couldn't possibly control. Narcissistic abuse didn't just make her feel like she was always wrong. It made her believe that apologizing was the only way to calm the narcissist's anger, to avoid being hurt again. So when she finally escaped the narcissist, Susan still carried this habit. She apologizes when she drops something. She apologizes when someone bumps into her. She apologizes even when she hasn't done anything wrong. Every "I'm sorry" is an automatic reflex, not because she wants to be polite, but because she is afraid that if she doesn't say it, someone will get angry, will criticize her, will make her feel as small as the narcissist once did. Narcissistic abuse taught her that apologizing was the only way to keep the peace, even if that peace was an illusion, even if no one is there to punish her anymore. But let's dig deeper. Apologizing isn't just an external action. It's an internal war, full of pain. For Susan, every apology is a confession. I'm wrong. I'm not good enough. Narcissistic abuse planted the belief that she is the root of every problem, that if she doesn't apologize, she will be judged, rejected. She doesn't just apologize to others. She apologizes to herself for not being perfect, for not meeting the impossible expectations the narcissist once placed on her. Every "I'm sorry" isn't just an attempt to avoid conflict. It's an attempt to erase the guilt she still carries from years of narcissistic abuse. Think about this. Susan doesn't apologize because she wants to. She apologizes because she feels she has to. Her fear isn't just about other people, it's about herself. She's afraid that if she doesn't apologize, she will fall back into the cycle of criticism she once endured. Narcissistic abuse made her believe that her worth is tied to admitting fault, even when there is no fault. Apologizing isn't just a habit, it's a survival mechanism. But it's also a reminder that she is still haunted by the narcissist's voice, even though he is long gone. And here's something to think about. Susan is not the only one. How many people constantly apologize, not because they're wrong, but because narcissistic abuse made them believe they always are? A psychologist once said, "Apologizing isn't always politeness. It's often a scar from old fear." For Susan, every apology is a step toward healing. But it's also proof that the wounds of narcissistic abuse are still there, deeper than she dares to face. Think about the people you've met. The ones who say sorry for everything, from dropping something to just standing near you when you trip. Do you think they're just being polite? Or is there something deeper? Maybe they're not just being humble. Maybe they're trying to calm a fear that narcissistic abuse left behind. So next time you hear someone apologize unnecessarily, don't dismiss it. Ask yourself, who are they apologizing to, and why do they feel the need to? Because for them, apologizing isn't just a habit, it's an excess of words born from deep fear, a battle to reclaim the worth they were once denied. Pause for a moment and look at these people, the silent warriors we have walked alongside through each of these strange habits. Mike lifts his head when he receives a compliment, smiling for the first time without doubt, his eyes shining as if he has found a lost piece of himself. Jenny loosens her grip at the BBQ, her eyes no longer empty but filled with hope, her smile real instead of rehearsed. Carol stops scrubbing the counter in the middle of the night, looking at the clean kitchen and exhaling, not in tears, but in fragile peace. Tom locks the door just once and climbs into bed without looking back, believing for the first time that the past can't touch him. Linda sits at the cafe, not just eating but savoring each bite, her smile no longer lonely but filled with meaning. Brian speaks a full sentence in the meeting, no longer stuttering, his voice strong and unshackled. Susan drops something and chuckles instead of apologizing, her shoulders straightening as if shedding an invisible weight. They step out of the darkness, not with the triumphant stride of victors, but with the quiet grace of survivors. The light touches their faces, not as a dazzling halo, but as a gentle glow at the end of a long road. These strange habits, doubt, masking, cleaning, locking doors, solitude, stuttering, excessive apologies, are not a full stop. They are signs of a journey, a battle to heal from narcissistic abuse, to reclaim themselves from the ashes left behind by a narcissist. They are not victims forever. They are learning to stand again step by step, even if they sometimes stumble. If you see yourself in these stories, listen to me. You are not alone. The invisible scars from narcissistic abuse are not a curse. They are proof that you have fought and are still here. You are not weak for doubting, not at fault for wearing a mask, not strange for locking doors or apologizing too much. You are strong, stronger than you think, because you have survived the days when a narcissist tried to break you. And if you see someone carrying these marks, don't turn away. A kind word, a compassionate glance, a moment of listening can be the breeze that clears the dark clouds in their heart. You don't need to fix them, just be there, and sometimes that is enough. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Every strange habit is a door leading to healing, a road leading to the light. They are walking that road, and you can too. I want you to be part of this journey, not just today, but in the deeper stories to come. Subscribe now so you don't miss out, because every video is a puzzle piece, every story a ray of light. Comment below if you've ever met someone like this, or if you carry the scars of narcissistic abuse yourself. Share even just a single line, because every word you say is a small flame in the dark, a hand reaching out to those who need it most. They are not strange. They are not weak. They are survivors of narcissistic abuse, people who were once broken but never stopped trying to rise again. The light at the end of the tunnel is not just waiting for them, it is waiting for you. Step forward, because that light is not as far away as you think. And when you reach it, you will see you deserve it more than anything the narcissist ever made you doubt.